The sun is still yawning its way over the horizon when he crouches low in the brush, still, silent, barefoot. His breath is slow and measured, each inhale barely disturbing the cool morning air. A faint trail of hoofprints presses into the damp earth ahead, bending the grass ever so slightly. To most, it's nothing. To him, it's a map, written in the soft ink of mud and broken twigs, telling a story of an antelope herd that passed through hours before. He moves with purpose, every step deliberate, avoiding dry leaves and brittle sticks like stepping over sleeping snakes. The tribe's survival could depend on what he brings back today. And if he brings back nothing? Well, let's just say no one has invented DoorDash in 17,000 BC. So before you enjoy the story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. The hunt begins. The world of the prehistoric hunter was a quiet one, but not in the peaceful sense. It was a silence filled with meaning. Birds stopping their song. Predator nearby. A sudden rustle in the ferns. Prey maybe. Or something with bigger teeth. He knows how to listen, not just to sound, but to the rhythm of the forest. And he doesn't speak unless he has to. Talking while hunting is like shouting in a library. Nature doesn't appreciate the noise. He stops and crouches beside a clump of trampled reeds. His fingers gently trace the edge of a hoofprint. Fresh. The mud still glistens. One of the antelope was limping, an easy target. He smiles. Or maybe winces. It's hard to tell when your smile is just baring your teeth at the wind. Prehistoric hunters weren't built for speed. They didn't chase animals like a cheetah. Instead, they used endurance. A little-known tactic among ancient peoples was persistence hunting, basically the prehistoric version of, "I will follow you until you're too tired to run anymore." This worked surprisingly well. Humans, thanks to our ability to sweat and carry water, could outlast many animals under the hot sun. Sure, the animal might be faster, but we were stubborn and surprisingly well hydrated. The hunter rises and begins to move again. The forest shifts as he goes, birds flitting overhead, insects clicking in the underbrush. He stops only once, to scratch at a bite on his arm, probably from one of those prehistoric mosquitoes the size of a tennis ball. No one misses those. Strapped to his back is a hand-carved spear, tipped with stone sharper than a modern scalpel. Stone knapping was no joke. With the right flick of a wrist, he could create an edge that could slice through hide like it was papyrus. And he needed it to. That limp-legged antelope won't stand still out of politeness. The sun climbs higher, and the hunter drinks from a goatskin pouch. It tastes like warm creek water, because it is warm creek water. But it keeps him going. Up ahead, he spots movement. A flick of an ear. A flash of brown against the green. He drops low, heart pounding. Not from fear, but anticipation. This is what he was made for. He edges forward, slowly drawing the spear from his back. No sudden moves. No sound. Just breath. Just instinct. Then, snap. A twig beneath his heel. The antelope's head jerks up. Eyes wide. It bolts. But he doesn't run. Not yet. Because this isn't over. Not by a long shot. The prey disappears into the foliage, but the hunter doesn't panic. He knows this dance. The animal may be fast, but he's thinking 4 moves ahead. This is no mindless chase. It's a test of wits, patience, and timing. He follows the trail, his eyes scanning for more than just hoofprints now. He's watching for changes in the terrain, for where he might steer the hunt. A patch of muddy earth? Slippery ground. A narrowing between boulders? A natural funnel? A sudden drop over a ridge? Well, that's a mistake you only make once. Prehistoric hunters weren't just persistent, they were strategic. It wasn't all raw instinct and grunting, despite what cartoons might suggest. In fact, early humans developed an incredible sense for reading the land and planning their moves. Hunting required teamwork, planning, and tools. Lots of tools. He stops and reaches into a pouch hanging from his waist. Out comes a small, carved object, a decoy. It's little more than a stick tied with sinew and dried grass, made to mimic the sound of rustling prey. He shakes it gently and waits. Nothing. Then a faint echo of movement ahead. It worked. The herd was nearby again. Curious, nervous, he moves forward, circling the edge of a ravine. In the distance, 3 more figures blend into the tree line, his hunting partners. They've been here for hours, posted at key points along the terrain. This wasn't a one-man show. Hunting in the prehistoric world was often a group activity. Families, clans, or even entire small tribes coordinated their hunts, using signals, gestures, and traps to outsmart their quarry. One of the lesser-known tools in their arsenal was the bolus, a set of weighted stones tied together with cord, designed to be thrown and entangle an animal's legs. It wasn't just flashy, it was effective, and it didn't require much strength, just accuracy. Which is fortunate, because this hunter's shoulder still hasn't recovered from last month's failed attempt to wrestle a boar. Spoiler, the boar won. Weapons were often tailor-made for specific prey. The atlatl, for example, a kind of spear-throwing lever, gave early hunters increased range and power without needing to bulk up like a gym bro. This meant a slight teenager could take down game from a safe distance, provided they had aim and nerves of steel. The hunter tightens his grip on the spear. Ahead, there's rustling, the herd again. His team knows their cues. One creaks a tree branch deliberately, another sends a soft whistle through a hollow reed. The animals spook, just as expected, and veer right, exactly where they want them to go. The terrain slopes slightly there, creating a bottleneck between 2 boulders. It's not a trap in the modern sense. No hidden nets or cartoon-style pits, but it's a controlled space. The hunter sprints forward now, heart thudding in rhythm with his footfalls. He flanks the herd, not attacking, just pressing them. One antelope, the limping one, struggles to keep up. It falls behind, panics, and darts sideways, right into the path of another hunter. A spear flies, clean and fast, and the animal falls. The team exhales, visibly and audibly relieved. Not just from the physical effort, but from the knowledge that their strategy worked. Food for the tribe, tools from the bones, warmth from the hide. This isn't just sport, it's life. The hunter jogs over to the downed prey. Blood pools quietly beneath it, and he rests a hand gently on its side. There's a moment of stillness, respect, maybe, or gratitude. And then, of course, someone breaks the silence by tripping over a root and face-planting into the dirt. Not everything in prehistory was graceful. Still, the tools, the tricks, the teamwork, they made all the difference. No claws, no fangs, just cleverness, and maybe a little bit of luck. They dragged the fallen antelope back toward camp with careful steps, weaving around rocks and tree trunks, the way well-worn from countless hunts. It's heavy, but not unmanageable, especially with the reward of meat, marrow, and materials to drive them forward. But as they near the clearing, someone gestures up the hillside. Another opportunity, a distant rumble. Then silence, then crack, a branch breaking beneath something big. The ground seems to hum beneath their feet as a shape lumbers into view. Massive, woolly, and entirely uninterested in human convenience. A mammoth, alone and wandering. Maybe it's sick. Maybe it's strayed too far from the herd. Either way, it's a chance, and one they can't ignore. The hunters exchange glances. No one says a word. They don't need to. Hunting a mammoth isn't like hunting antelope. This isn't a sprint and stab operation. You don't just run up and poke it with a stick unless you really want to become a pancake. These giants could reach 6 tons, and they weren't known for their patience. So humans had to rely on something much more dangerous than brute force, strategy. Prehistoric people often used the terrain itself to their advantage. For large prey like mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, or even bison, hunters would lead animals toward natural traps, cliffs, swamps, or narrow passes where movement was limited. Sometimes they dug pits lined with sharpened stakes, covering them with branches and soil. It took days, even weeks to set one up, and there were no YouTube tutorials to help. Today, though, there's no prepared pit. Just a narrow ravine up ahead, with steep sides and only one exit. If they can herd the mammoth toward that bottleneck, they might just have a shot. It's a risky gamble, like trying to guide an angry bus with a broom. The plan is simple: distract, direct, and drive. 3 hunters fan out, waving branches and shouting. Yes, shouting. Subtlety is no longer an option. The mammoth bellows in return, swinging its massive tusks, but it turns, just slightly, toward the ravine. That's enough. Another pair of hunters light a small fire. Just smoke, nothing to harm it, but enough to scare it forward. Fire, even in its most primitive form, was a game changer for humanity. It wasn't just for warmth or cooking, it became a psychological weapon. The mammoth panics. It lumbers faster, tusks swaying like ancient swords. The earth quakes with each step. Now comes the real trick: coordination. In modern terms, this would be like organizing a flash mob. Only your performers are terrified, and the stakes are a little higher than TikTok fame. One wrong move, and someone's getting launched into the next valley. As the mammoth nears the ravine, a hunter waves frantically from above, tossing rocks to create noise and confusion. The animal charges forward and into the trap. The narrow path slows it. Its movement is restricted. That's when the spears come, not from the front, never from the front, but from above and the sides. Spears rain down like oversized toothpicks from the cliffs above, each aimed at soft spots. Under the arm, behind the shoulder, around the eye. One spear strikes true. The beast staggers. Another lands. Then another. It lets out a cry that shakes the trees. And then, silence. The hunters stand frozen, not in fear, but awe. They've done it, not by overpowering a creature 20 times their size, but by understanding it. By using terrain, fear, timing, and most of all, each other. This wasn't a solo win. It never could be. One of the younger hunters lets out a whoop of celebration, and someone smacks him on the head playfully. Another joke about who gets to carry the tongue home. Always the tongue. Apparently, it's a prehistoric delicacy. Weird flex, but okay. But beneath the laughter, there's a quiet truth. This was how they survived. Not through muscle, through mind, and, occasionally, by convincing a 6-ton mammoth to walk into a very inconvenient gorge. The mammoth's body lies still, its towering presence reduced to silence beneath the open sky. The hunters gather around it, not to celebrate a conquest, but to begin the ritual of thanks and necessity. This wasn't just meat. It was rope from sinew, clothing from hide, tools from bones, shelter from the massive ribs. Everything had a purpose, and nothing was wasted. To disrespect the animal was to disrespect the life it gave, and the lives it would continue to sustain. The elder of the group kneels beside the fallen beast, pressing a hand to its thick fur. He murmurs something the others don't speak aloud, but everyone hears. It's not a prayer, not exactly. It's memory. It's gratitude. It's a reminder. No matter how clever you are, survival is still a gift. With the heavy work ahead, the hunters begin the process of butchering and preparing the mammoth, using blades chipped from flint and obsidian, tools so sharp and refined that modern surgeons have studied them for their uncanny precision. Strange, isn't it? The same hand that carves a surgical scalpel once shaped rock to skin a beast this size, thousands of years ago. But the true weapon, the real innovation, wasn't the stone. It was the brain. You see, what set early humans apart wasn't their strength. Plenty of animals were stronger. It wasn't speed, most were faster. And they certainly weren't the most intimidating. A single saber-toothed cat had more fear factor than an entire hunting party with sticks. But humans could imagine. They could picture the mammoth's movement before it happened. They could rehearse the hunt in their minds, choose the best terrain, communicate silently, plan around weather, track patterns of migration, and most impressively, they could teach these things to others. The knowledge didn't die with one hunter. It passed on, carved into stone, whispered through stories, imitated in hand gestures by firelight. You see this scar, someone would say, pointing to their arm. That's what happens when you poke a boar from the wrong angle. Effective teaching. Painful lesson. As the sun begins to set, the group builds a signal fire to let others know of their success. Distant smoke will alert the rest of the tribe, who will come with woven baskets, bone knives, and sharp eyes ready to work. Even the elders, too frail to hunt, will join in, scraping hides, preparing meat, telling stories of past hunts. And the children will gather close, wide-eyed, as one of the hunters reenacts the moment the mammoth turned and bellowed at the fire. He adds a little extra drama, of course. The beast was this big. The tusks were this close. The part where he slipped in the mud and landed on his butt? He leaves that out. Nobody needs to know everything. Humor, even in ancient times, was part of survival. Not just laughter for the sake of it, but laughter to release fear, to bond, to remind each other that no matter how dangerous the world was, they were not facing it alone. In the days ahead, the tribe will feast. They will sing. They will pass around tools made from the very bones of the animal, now cooling beneath the stars. And they will plan again, because life never stops demanding cleverness. So the next time someone tells you our ancestors were just dumb cavemen with clubs, remind them. These people invented endurance-based hunting, portable fire, and weapons with surgical precision, all before the wheel. And they did it with no written language, no metal, and no YouTube tutorials. But they had imagination. They had each other. And most importantly, they had the mind of a hunter.